Hey everyone, welcome to Latitude59. You're here, you made it. I'm actually talking to myself a little bit here because it's my first time at Latitude59, I'm ashamed to say, but I'm super excited and also super grateful for you guys having me. Now, before I tell you a little bit more about my little journey from rapper to startup leader, I'd love to roll a video. Now, this is my dear friend Mirko, and he's revolutionized graffiti, 3D graffiti to be more precise, by removing the outlines. Enjoy. Pretty sweet, right? Really revolutionized graffiti, developed the art form, and I think we're also in an era of revolutionizing businesses with the help of AI. My name is Axel Taubert. I'm the head of startups at Google Cloud for Northern and Central Eastern Europe. My team is here to help you founders to build your business on our platform, sometimes with the help of a couple of credits. But I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me being a retired rapper. Why? Because graffiti and rap are part of the same culture, which is called hip-hop. And just to give you an idea, by chance, I found a book here. I didn't bring this book. You actually found this book. And Dime is in this book. So he's world-renowned for what he did. I'm really glad to have him as a friend. Now, as I said, hip-hop consists of a couple of different disciplines. One is graffiti, the other one is rapping. Does anyone know the other two disciplines of hip-hop? Anyone? Breakdancing, wonderful. What's your name? I didn't hear that, sorry, but breakdancing is one, and the other one obviously is DJing. Okay, these things need to come together to make the magic happen. And we used to come together at jams, and that's how I got to know Mirko. And he became a very close friend, and he visited my place several times. And I remember a meeting in 2018, so ages ago. And we discussed the emergence of AI. I was already working at Google. However, I was in ads and YouTube and didn't really know what was going on, but I felt bullish. Like I felt, oh, this is going to be big and Google's going to be great at it, I'm sure. So I ended up betting with him that in the future, AI might either be able to generate graffiti, almost there, but at least recognize the artist, maybe even decipher what they're writing. So we ended up betting for a very expensive bottle of whiskey. Back then I was still drinking. So the stakes were really high, right? Now, you might think, well, this is easy. This has been solved for. But back then, there was no vibe coding. There was no Gemini, right? We had to build an app from scratch, and I couldn't do that. So I had to go desperately to my Google Cloud colleagues and ask them for help. And two people were kind enough to help me because they liked the challenge. So one person built the app and the other one trained the model. We had a model that was pre-trained on visuals and it's called AutoML. That was already pretty good, but obviously it didn't have any graffiti-specific insights. So it was down to, like, my job was literally scrubbing Instagram, downloading these pictures and labeling them. The monkey work, okay, you might say, and rightfully so. That was all I was qualified for at that time. But that was necessary to train the data, train the model, and the model got pretty good. Within an hour, the accuracy was pretty high. I had downloaded roughly 100 pictures, and then we said, okay, we want to take it a step further, and we downloaded 1,000 pictures. I downloaded 1,000 pictures, labeled them. We trained the model overnight, and it was pretty good. However, it wasn't perfect. So I didn't really understand what was going on, I was confused, and so was the algorithm. You can see here that in the confusion matrix, there was a high likelihood of the model being wrong when it came to Banksy, who you all know. Who knows Banksy? Show of hands. You don't know who he really is. Dime, by the way, does, but he won't tell me. It's unfortunate. And Black the Red. So Black the Red is a French artist. My French is non-existing, so I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to call him Black the Red. And Dime knew that he was inspired. Banksy was inspired by Black the Red because he started spraying rats in Paris early on. So if you have that context, you understand why the algorithm gets this wrong. You might even say the algorithm detected similarities. So it wasn't really getting it wrong. It was just figuring out that, hey, there's something going on between these two artists. So that was pretty cool. Now, when looking at these two artists, I was like, okay, this is not working. Why is it getting these two artists confused? This is completely different, right? Now, again, Dime was able to add context because I just downloaded a whole bunch of pictures and I didn't care from when they were, how old they were. But graffiti is a new art form. It's been evolving over the last 40 years. That's, by the way, almost as long as Dime has been doing this. So these two artists have a history. And when you look at the history of these two artists, it all makes sense now. Because in the early 90s, these artists were pretty similar. But then the artist Mad C evolved her style, which I love and actually have original at home. And Dare, unfortunately, passed away. So he wasn't able to evolve his style. Now, again, the algo wasn't really wrong. It just understood that in the past, these two artists were similar. So I realized, working on this project with the help of my colleagues, this is the next hot shit. I want to work in this space. And a couple of months later, I got the opportunity to land this job here. And I'm grateful because ever since I've been working at the future of our products, I feel like. Now, when it comes back to the story of me and Dime betting, obviously I won the bet. I also made him paint this painting during a custom event at Google Cloud. He got paid for it. I'm not that kind of friend, so he got money for it. And at that moment, the app that we built already had a 98% certainty that this is going to be a Dime. However, Dime never sprayed this before because, as you can already tell, there's a brand in there that he usually doesn't spray. And the end result was this. Pretty nice, huh? Now, there's two words in here. One is pretty obvious. What's the obvious one? Google. Okay. Can anyone read the other one? There's two words. Yes, maybe? So the other one is AutoML. AutoML combined, and it says it down here as well. So now this is actually hanging in our lobby in Munich, in our Munich office at Google. And it's the most sought out selfie spot in the whole entire office. It's beautiful. Anyways, fast forward to today. What does that all mean? Now, as I said, this was 7 years ago. AI was, emerging, but we had products under the hood for quite some time. We've, become an AI-first company 10 years ago. And that already tells you that 7 years ago we were able to do this. It's pretty amazing. Now, this is history, but I think we all agree that AI is here to stay, and it's going to fundamentally change our lives. And if you don't trust me, trust the money, because just like in a criminal investigation, it's a good idea to follow the money. Now, when you look at the money is obviously following a trend, and that's AI. So over the last 5 years, investments have doubled from 10 billion into up to 23 billion in AI-first startups in Europe. That's great news. So Europe is investing in becoming an AI powerhouse, you might say. And also the share of AI startups has risen dramatically. Anyone here building an AI-first startup? Show of hands, please. Okay, that's pretty good. Yes, because we need those, and we need those here. Yes, I work for an American company, but still European. Okay, so we need AI-first startups to become the next unicorns in Europe. Because the bad news is the US in the same year invested 222 billion in AI startups, and the economy is roughly the same size. Also, we as a company and our competitors are investing heavily in the infrastructure. Some have said that it's roughly the same amount when you measure it compared to GDP, what went into the railroad infrastructure 200 years back. So this is really an investment in the future of our industry and society, and we're part of it. That's amazing. And you're a part of it as well, because investments in the Baltics have also risen again. I know there was a slump, and these 2 years were crazy everywhere, but there's an upward trajectory again. And that is also due to AI investments. So I only have numbers for the Baltics, not Estonia by itself. But basically, investment in AI startups has almost 10x over the last year. And also the share has increased significantly in the number of rounds. The rounds are now 8 million on average instead of 1 million before. So we're doing the right thing. The money is going to the right places. Now it's up to you to build something with it. And you need to build it fast. And I'm going to tell you why. Why this acceleration? Why is this happening all so fast now? And the obvious answer is AI. AI accelerates everything. But there are also three fundamental things that I would argue have been solved for that accelerate startup journeys. Three bottlenecks have been removed. And one of them is infrastructure. Now, I'm not talking about the new economy where startups actually had to buy servers and then put them in the basement. I'm talking about 3-4 years ago when you had to spin up servers, virtual machines, plan for capacity, all that. It's pretty much solved for. So products like Cloud Run at Google automatically scale and you don't need to worry about it. So that's great. You can focus on building your product and not hosting your servers and maintaining them. So that's good. Data overload. In the last 10 years, so much data was created by startups as well, whether it be B2B or B2C startups, that it's become a pain of actually creating value and insights from that data. That has become much easier with AI. It takes less time, it takes less people, and less investment. So that's also really, really important. And then software engineers. Look, software engineers were scarce, were expensive. We're part of the problem because we're sucking up all the good ones. Now everyone can become a builder. I'm pretty sure I could now build that app that we built as a team 7 years ago by myself, whether it be with Lovable or tools that we offer. So everyone can now become a builder, at least to get you to MVP, because that's important. You need to get to MVP and you need to get there fast. Why? Because everyone's getting there fast. In the pre-AI era, it took roughly 6 months to get from nothing to MVP. Now that has significantly reduced to 2 months. So a third of the time. Now that's great, right? You can launch a product, you can get it tested by a couple of customers, get feedback. Life could be so easy without customers, right? So you get feedback, and on your MVP and your first customers and your first MRR, you might raise some money. Because then you want to get from MVP, ideally, to unicorn. And there's also a new formula there that is scary and inspiring at the same time, I would argue. The formula is half the team in a quarter of the time. So in the pre-AI area, we saw a median time of 9 years for a startup to start and get to unicorn. That's a long ride. That's a tough grind, okay? So that's good news. It's happening faster if you're doing the right things. And also, you had to employ roughly 400 people to get there. Now it's down to 200. However, the bad news is the VC will expect that from you. You will have to be that fast because otherwise your competitors will overtake you and win the race. So there's no way around employing tools, AI-based tools, to build your startup now. There's really no way around it. And I would argue we're in a unique position to help you there. As I said, Google has invested over the last 10 years in becoming an AI-first company. And it started with releasing our first version of TPUs that purposely built for AI models and AI use cases. We've now just recently announced the 8th version of the TPUs, the tensor processing units. So we have our own silicon that is purpose-built. It's much more energy efficient. It's cheaper. Plus, we now have 2 versions, one for training, one for inference. So check that out. It makes sense to have a look at that because that is a game changer. Secondly, we have data centers. We've always had huge data centers for products like YouTube and Gmail and Maps. We have 1 billion users across many different products. So we need to think at scale. Same goes for networking. We have our own fiber across the Atlantic, the Pacific. So that can also make a huge difference when it comes to scaling and latency. Thirdly, we have a unified AI stack. Used to be called Vertex AI, now it's called Agentic Platform. We like changing and rebranding our products. And that is really a platform optimized for your AI use cases, where we also offer our own products, own models, like Gemini, like Veo. And anyone tried Nano Banana in this room? Pretty nice, right? Lots of use cases there, actually like not only fun use cases, but real use cases there. But we also offer all other models in our marketplace. So if you want to use Anthropic or maybe a German one like Black Forest Labs for image creation, most of them are on our marketplace. So we don't lock you in, but we have something that you can work with, trained, you can tweak them like I tweaked AutoMail with Graffiti pictures. And last but not least, this creates an economic moat, I would argue, and the token economics that we can offer is unmatched in the market. Now you might think, oh, that's not true. Others are just as cheap or even a little better. However, remember that many of these companies are currently privately owned. They have not IPO'd. They're not reporting their revenues or their losses. So I'm expecting prices to go up once these companies go public, or at least stay the same, because they will need to earn money at some stage. When you look at our numbers, I think we're earning quite decently already. So check out our offerings, because the token economics that we can offer are unbeatable. And also when you look at the cost performance ratio, this is a platform, it's hard to read, I think Arena AI, so it's a third-party platform, and models are ranked by performance. I know this is very hard to read, at least for me. And you see Anthropic, hey, they're doing a great job. The model is amazing, we know that. But this is Gemini 3.1. We've recently announced 3.5, but I didn't get a chart yet, because that was like 2 days ago at I/O. And when you look at the cost performance ratio of Gemini versus Claude, you can see that we are half the price. So in many use cases, our model is totally fine. It'll work as well or almost as well as others, but the cost performance ratio is better. And that can be important for your business, because at some stage you will have to be profitable, ideally. So I think that would potentially really, really help you. Now, there's a couple of core AI components I want to mention before I leave you with my last slide. I talked about the agentic platform shortly. That is Vertex AI in the past. That is something purposely built for you to build on. Now we have our own models, Gemini, but also Anti-Gravity. And we recently announced Anti-Gravity 2.0 as a desktop application that you can use to build your stuff, and also then deploy it and manage it. And Cloud Run I already mentioned, because that is a platform that just scales with your business. If you want to internationalize, if you get more customers, Cloud Run will just scale with your business. And as I said in the beginning, I have this amazing team that is here to help you. They're here today. They're also across Northern Europe, if you're not from Estonia. And we're here all along your journey. So everyone gets 2K of credits, no questions asked, to play around with. That's nice. I would really recommend, if you have something to show for, join an incubator or accelerator that we work with, or apply at least, and then hopefully join. Because there's this ecosystem tier we don't really talk about a lot. You don't find it on the website. But if you're in an incubator accelerator that we are associated with, you get these 25K, and that should bring you to MVP at least. And then with the MVP, you might be able to raise some money. And once you get VC funding, you're eligible for the scaled or AI tier that gives you even more credits. And then hopefully at some stage, you're successful, you've got paying customers, and you become one of our paying customers. So if you haven't yet, please apply to the program. And we are really happy to have you on the program and help you on your journey. With that, that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to take your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Axel. Much appreciated. Any questions for him? There's a microphone that's going to go around. Just like raise your hand, and then you'll be able to ask your questions. All right, we have a question over here.
Thanks, Axel.
Sure.
My question is, what is Google's mindset, or maybe your department, in, for example, generating, creating new ideas, or even anticipating problems that you want to solve?
For our customers or for ourselves?
In general. You can answer both.
Okay. When it comes to solving problems, let's talk about Google first and how we approach that. You might have heard of the Moonshot Factory, Google X, where we really try to find big problems to solve. And for Moonshot to come to, three things have to come together. It needs to be a huge problem, like 1 billion plus people are affected. It needs to be solved by technology because we're a tech company. And it has to be a breakthrough technology. It needs to be physically feasible, but it's okay if it doesn't exist yet. And out of the Moonshot Factory, things have evolved, have been developed, like Waymo, self-driving cars, Verily, contact lenses for people with insulin problems. So this is the approach of Google, really aiming for 10x solutions that not incrementally make things better, but at least 10x. And I would argue, I would always push startups that we work with to have the same mindset, because making things 10% better is not a game changer. You're probably going to have a hard time raising money on that. So think 10x, and we're happy to help if we can. We have a team of customer engineers if you run into technical problems that can help you. But we are not in the business of building startups. We're just in the business of helping startups build on our platform.
One more question.
Thanks, Axel. Question is, why are you not a rapper anymore? No. Serious, thanks for the intro. Gives me a hope that I still can make it up to a unicorn in my age.
Sure.
And we decided with our newly startup to go with the Google platforms, with all and everything which is there, up to Vertex and what's called now?
Agentic platform,
yeah,
I think.
Just
like for now.
Yeah, for now. Okay, I stay to Vertex. Yeah. So this is very promising. This is great. Mm-hmm. But if I put all my stakes in there, what kind of guarantees do I have that, because Google is an American company, we are not all in a sudden cut off by Mr. T?
Okay, there's a lot of stuff to unpack. So first question first, why am I not a rapper anymore? I was not successful, right? I actually got a big down payment from the record label, and we produced an album, but we didn't chart. It's the same numbers game as VC business, by the way. Record labels will place their bets on different artists, and one will chart, and that chart is the fund returner, basically, just like with startups. So I wasn't successful, but I had a lot of fun anyways, and I learned a lot. Now, coming back to your second question, first of all, when you look at Google I/O and the announcement, the investments that we're making in infrastructure is not only in the US, it's global. So we have local data centers here in Europe and all around the world. Now you might say we can still cut those off, but we also offer sovereign solutions. There's just a recent announcement in Germany. We are now partnering with Thales to provide basically Google infrastructure managed by them. No one has access, and also Mr. T doesn't have access. So if that is important for you to be sovereign and have the data in the EU, we have solutions for that. Does that answer your question? Okay, great. Yes.
Hi, Axel. Thanks for sharing your story.
Thank you.
I have a question basically, I mean, clearly you have to have resilience if you've been through the music industry. Are there any other skills or lessons you learned as a rapper that you apply in your day-to-day now working at Google?
Now, being on stage, I guess that's something I learned while I was a rapper. And you know, rappers and founders have one thing in common. They're really vocal about how good they are, right? So rappers usually, you know, they're the biggest, you know, they're the best. Always, everyone is the best. And founders, they have to at least, you know, fake it till they make it. So that's maybe a similarity. But one thing I really learned there was that in my band, we had different characters, different skills. I was definitely not the best rapper. If everyone would have been like me, we would always be on time for practice and live events, but we would have produced even worse rap music. So it's important to find the people that that have complementary skills and are better than you. Someone mentioned A-performers. I would just say, you know, try to find people that have complementary skills to build your startup, that push you. Yes, that's definitely something I learned while I was in rapping.
We have time for one last question. Anyone has one more question for Axel? No? All right, then thank you so much for sharing your experience. Like, that has been
my pleasure.
wide and varied. Big round of applause for him.